Welcome to Mr. Tinga Tinga Literature channel, and let us together pass through the types or kinds of oral literature. Oral literature, as among the two types of literature, it can be defined as the kind of literature which is presented orally or in spoken form. Now, going direct to the kinds or types of oral literature, let us start with folktales. Folktales are stories which passed down from one generation to another orally. So, those stories which our grandparents always narrate to us, they are called folktales. Fables. Fables are the kinds of folktales which can be defined as moral stories with animals as characters. So these are the stories which aim to give moral lessons by using animals as characters in them. For example, in Africa, there are very popular stories which have hares and hyena, hare and tortoise, lion and the hare. Those are fables. Fairy tales. Fairy tales are fictional stories which usually involve magic and mythical creatures, such as witches and other creatures with supernatural powers. For example, the story of Cinderella, who is helped with fairy grandmother, that is a very popular fairy tale in this world. Trickster Tears. Trickster Tears are folktales in which a trickster is a hero. Often a trickster is an animal playing tricks to other animals and human beings in a story. In Africa, we have very popular trickster tales which involve hare as the trickster. Parable. Parable are religious stories which teach a basic truth or religion principle by using comparison. And you can see parables are popularly used by Jesus in the Bible. If you read the Bible, you will see how Jesus used parable, that are stories which make comparison of different scenarios, different people, so as to draw out the moral lesson or religious lesson. Another kind of oral literature is legend. Legend are old and well-known stories that tell about brave people. So, in Africa, we have legends about people like Shaka Zulu, stories like Rwanda Magere, stories of people like Kinjekitile Ngwale. These are people found in Africa, and we know them through legends. So legends are old and well-known stories that tell about brave people. Another kind of oral literature is myth. Myths are religious stories which explain about origin of the world and humanity. Basically, they not based on truth, as they all about mystical events. For example, if you read some stories, maybe you may meet with some scenario explaining the origin existence of man, how man come into existence. Those stories are called myth. Another kind of oral literature is anecdote. Anecdote are short, amusing, and interesting stories about real people. The word anecdote itself comes from a Greek word which means unpublished. So when in class maybe you want to tell your fellows how your teacher fell down yesterday, that we may call anecdote. And if you go to the Bible, maybe if you read the story about a thief, or maybe a beaten man with a Samaritan, that's an anecdote because it really happened. That's an anecdote. A short, amusing, and interesting story about really people. Epics are long narrative poems about brave actions and exciting events. Epics are long narrative poems about brave actions and exciting events. For example, you may see we have a book of 200 pages, and all which you can find, all which may be found in there, it's one poem narrating about some bravery actions of maybe Kwame Nkrumah, bravery actions maybe of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, bravery actions of Nelson Mandela. So that kind of poems are called epics. They usually presented on episodes. So you got a poem, it has episodes like a series movie. That is called an epics. Now another kind of oral literature is tall tale. Tall tale, it's exaggerated stories about larger than life heroes who solved over top problems. Tall tales, I can again refer to people like here in East Africa we are being told about bravery actions, or maybe you are being told about life heroes like Rwanda Magere, life heroes like Kinje Kitile Ngwale, life heroes like Mkwawa Mkwavinyika of Uhehe. We are told tale about someone like Mansa Musa Kanu. Ballads. Ballads are short stories in the form of poems or song, often two people speaking in it. For example, you can see the poem of Ballad of the Landlord. You can see there a tenant is complaining to a landlord, and a landlord replies to the tenant. So that is called ballad, because it's some kind of a poem which gives us a story, and it has some people speaking in it. Riddles. Riddles are questions that is deliberately very confusing, aimed to test bravery of someone, or brevity of someone who is willing to answer them. For example, a very famous riddle on English, it is that which says, I always wear my jacket, stand by my back to you, showing my spine. You may see that is a book, and it is said that any successful riddle, it must successfully present inanimate object as a human or animal. So any successful riddle, it must successfully present inanimate thing to be as an animal or a person. For example, for the riddle which I given there, you can see I've presented a book as a living thing. To the other type of oral literature, it's sayings. Sayings are well-known short statements which states general reality and often found to be wise. Also, the other kind of spoken literature is proverb. Proverbs are also defined as short, well-known statements which gives advice or state the general truth. Another kind of oral literature is idioms. Idioms An idiom is a group of words which has a special meaning that is different from the ordinary meaning of its separate words. Therefore, the meaning of an idiom is completely different to the meaning of its individual words. So, in order to understand an idiom, you have to read and interpret the words in it as whole. If you do interpret them separately, you will not achieve the intended meaning. For example, someone may tell you anything which is relating to this idiom: kick the bucket. Maybe he has kicked the bucket. That means to die. Or other person may tell you, I am under the weather. I am under the weather. That means to be ill. Maybe someone is sick, so he is under the weather. Those are the kinds or types of oral literature. Don't forget to subscribe. Show the gesture of support to this channel. Thank you.